One of the most difficult trials for a person is the death of a loved one. However, the relatives of the heroes of our today's material faced a much more terrible tragedy. Their relatives went missing, leaving their loved ones in complete ignorance about their fate. Gone for a walk with a friend and never returned. Disappeared from a hotel room. Disappeared on her way to art school. These gruesome formulations have become the last memories for those whose loved ones have vanished without a trace, leaving no trace, no clues, and no shadow of hope that they will ever return home. Long months and even years of searching, the involvement of police and volunteers, the desperate desire to learn something about the fate of their relatives, these missing persons cases have not moved forward, despite the enormous efforts of all those involved in the investigation. However, in the hearts of those waiting for them at home, there is still hope for a reunion. On July 30th, 1985, 8-year-old Nicole Louise Morin was in her Toronto home with her mother. The family lived in an upscale neighborhood in Etobicoke, and their apartment complex with a swimming pool, gym, game rooms, and gated community was considered perfectly safe. In the morning, Nicole told her mother that she wanted to go to the pool with her friend, who also lived in the building, and the woman agreed. The girl's parents often let her walk on the grounds of the building, being sure that nothing bad would happen there. Before Nicole left the apartment, in the intercom, called her friend Morin and said that she was waiting in the lobby of the building. The way to the lobby was about 3 minutes, including the way to the elevator and downstairs. At about 11 a.m., the girl left the apartment and never returned. In the evening of the same day, the police were already in the apartment of Nicole's mother. Detectives tried to reconstruct the chain of events, but the girl seemed to have vanished. Morin never met with her friend, and none of the neighbors saw whether the girl went into the elevator. The events of that day led Nicole's parents in a state of despair. The girl's mother independently interviewed neighbors, and the father devoted his life to finding his daughter. Arthur Morin quit his job and established an operational headquarters, used the services of private investigators, assigned rewards for information on the whereabouts of Nicole, hung posters around the city and beyond, but the investigation did not move an inch. In 2007, Jeanette Morin, the girl's mother, died of a heart attack, unable to cope with the uncertainty and depression that developed after her daughter's disappearance. This event wounded Jeanette's former spouse, but he found the strength to continue his life's work. The police put forward several official versions, including the girl's own escape from home. In her room, they found a diary in which was found a strange entry made by Nicole's hand. "I have to disappear." However, the most plausible versions of the girl's abduction, detectives believed that among the possible motives were sexual and religious. Some witnesses claimed to have seen an unknown woman in the building on the day of the disappearance. On the basis of their descriptions was made a sketch, but the identity of the stranger has not been established. The story of the girl's disappearance has been the basis of many books and scientific works, and volunteers and Nicole's father continue to search for her to this day. The story of the disappearance of 3-year-old Madeleine Beth McCann is one of the most high-profile, unsolved abduction cases worldwide. Madeleine disappeared from a hotel room in Portugal on May 3, 2007, when her parents went to a restaurant 50 meters from the hotel, and her whereabouts are still unknown. Immediately after receiving the signal of the abduction, the Portuguese police began searching for the girl. Detectives were able to reconstruct the chain of events preceding the disappearance. Madeleine's parents went out to dinner at about 8:30 p.m., but regularly returned to the apartment to check on the children. Along with Madeleine in the hotel were also her sister Amelie and brother Sean. At the time of the second inspection, which took place at 10 p.m., the girl was no longer in the room, and after that the trace of the McCann's daughter is lost forever. Police were able to find several witnesses to the crime who gave different accounts, leading to confusion. Some claim to have seen a man with a baby in his arms at around 9:15 p.m., leading detectives to suspect Madeleine's parents were involved in her disappearance. However,
Guests at the restaurant later confirmed that the McCanns were out with friends at the time. Other eyewitnesses reported seeing the alleged perpetrator at 10 p.m. near the victim's apartment. The man, who did not look like an ordinary tourist, was carrying a girl in his arms, nervously looking around. It later emerged that a similar man had been seen earlier when he parked a white van outside the hotel complex where the McCanns lived. A little later, witnesses reported other strange happenings at the resort in the weeks before Madeleine's abduction. According to eyewitnesses, a group of men regularly appeared at the hotel complexes, posing as members of charitable organizations. They allegedly collected donations, while at the time the resort was experiencing an increase in room break-ins, and one vacationer reported that he caught the perpetrator in his suite while he was looking at a baby's crib. Unfortunately, the witness was unable to see his face. Despite the abundance of different versions, the public and members of the press for some time terrorized Madeleine's parents, claiming that they were the ones involved in the girl's disappearance. In 2008, the police officially refuted this version, and the family received financial compensation, as well as apologies from several major publications. After a while, the official investigation reached a dead end, but the girl's parents did not give up hope of finding her. They regularly published new photos of their daughter, attracted the attention of the media and the police, asked for help from private investigators. In 2010, the case, called Operation Grange, was reopened by Theresa May and continues to this day, and the girl's relatives believe that she is still alive. David Guerrero Guevara, a 13-year-old artist from the Spanish city of Malaga, disappeared on April 6, 1987. The boy was called a young Picasso, and his teachers and older friends described him as an extremely talented and responsible child. A few days before his disappearance, one of David's works was exhibited at the La Maison Gallery in Malaga, which greatly excited the young creator. He was incredibly happy and excited that day, David's parents said after his disappearance. The talented artist's work was noted by a local radio station, whose journalist offered the boy an interview. David agreed to be interviewed by a representative of the radio station and had been in a puzzled state the day before. His classmates said that the boy refused to eat and complained of a headache, and David's mother reported that he was also unable to eat at home, citing nervousness before the interview. On April 6th at 6:30 p.m., David left the house. His plan was to stop by a gallery, art school, and then head to the interview afterward. But instead, the boy disappeared without a trace, not appearing in any of the planned locations. The first to discover his son's disappearance was David's father, who came to the art studio to escort him to a meeting with a journalist. The man sounded the alarm, and within an hour, local residents were combing the streets of the city in search of the young artist, and a day later the police joined them. Unfortunately, detectives and volunteers were unable to find a single clue or witness, even considering the fact that Queen Sofia of Spain had arrived in the city that day, and locals came out en masse to greet the monarch. Detectives put forward several main versions of what happened, among which were kidnapping for the purpose of using David's artwork, as well as the boy's escape from his family. None of them were confirmed, as no evidence was found during the investigation to indicate the plausibility of one or the other version. The investigation of the sensational case lasted until 2016, after which David was forced to be recognized as dead. The boy's mother was not ready to recognize her son as dead, but the death of her husband forced the woman to take this step to avoid legal difficulties with the inheritance of property. Today, his room still remains untouched, and David Guerrero Guevara's relatives are still waiting for him to return home. A 13-year-old schoolgirl from Great Britain disappeared on April 8, 1969, and since then, her whereabouts remain unknown, despite the enormous efforts made by the British police and relatives of the girl. April's parents described their daughter as a shy teenager. She liked to spend time with friends, studied well, and did not seek dangerous adventures. On the day of her disappearance, the girl's plans included a bike ride and a meeting with her cousin, but she never made it to her relative's house. On April 8th around 2 p.m.,
2 witnesses found April's bicycle on the side of a road in Norfolk County, but did not report it. A short time later, a passing motorist also noticed the bicycle lying there and took it to the police department, leading to one of the largest search operations in the history of the United Kingdom. During the investigation, about 400 homes were inspected and more than 1,000 witnesses were interviewed, but no one could tell what had happened. April literally vanished on her way to her sister's house. A little later, detectives put forward a version, according to which the girl could become a victim of serial killer and rapist Robert Black, but he denied his guilt, and the police found no convincing evidence to combine these cases. The investigation into April Fabb's mysterious disappearance continued until 2010, but as with other stories today, it was inconclusive. Today, the missing girl is still missing, and her family has not given up hope of seeing her again. Maura Murray, a student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, disappeared without a trace on February 9, 2004, and the case of her disappearance is one of the most mysterious in the history of the United States. Maura Murray was a typical American student, a girl who loved parties, socializing with friends, and working part-time at the university campus. There were no serious problems in her life that could be the reason for her disappearance, and her relatives and friends described her as a cheerful girl. That all changed a few days before she went missing. On February 5th, a university professor noticed Maura sitting in the hallway of the institution in tears. The girl said that she spoke on the phone with her sister Caitlin, who suffered from alcoholism and returned to the addiction after treatment in the clinic. A distraught Murray assured the teacher that she would be fine and retired to her room. The next day, Maura went to a party, after which she got into a serious accident with her father's car. But fortunately, the girl herself was not injured. Further events that took place in her life are unknown, and the next time she made contact was on the day of her disappearance. At 13 o'clock on February 9th, Maura sent a message to her lover, which said that the girl now does not want to discuss any personal issues. Half an hour later, Murray sent another message. The girl wrote to her teachers that she would not be at the university for a week because she had a relative who had died. As it became known later, no one in Murray's family died. Around 7 p.m., a resident of the town of Woodsville, New Hampshire, heard a loud noise. Looking out the window, the woman saw a car involved in a serious accident, and she immediately called the transportation authority. At the same time, a bus pulled up to the car involved in the accident, and the driver saw a woman driving the car with no apparent injuries, but in a very disturbed state. The man suggested that she call the police, but the girl, who was Maura Murray, assured him that she had already called traffic services. At 7:49 p.m., police officers arrived at the scene of the accident. However, they found an empty vehicle on the road. Detectives were unable to get any leads that would indicate where Maura disappeared to after the accident, and witnesses claimed they saw nothing. In Maura's car, they found birth control pills, several sealed bottles of alcohol, and documents in her name. The investigation into Murray's disappearance lasted for years and continues to this day, and the girl's father sincerely hopes that Maura is alive. But there are more questions than answers in this mysterious case, including where was Maura Murray going on February 9th, 2004, and why didn't she want police to help her after the accident? According to ICMEC, between 1 and 8 million children go missing each year worldwide. Specifically, 359,094 children are missing in the US. In 2021, 83,900 children are missing in Germany in 2021. Over 46,870 children are missing in the UK in 2021. About 59,262 children are missing in India in 2020, and about 50,000 children are missing in Russia in 2019. And this happens in every country. Many countries don't even have statistics on missing children, and unfortunately, even the statistics that are available can be inaccurate for a number of reasons. Real monsters exist and they are among us.